this square is a way to solve quadratic equations, to solve any quadratic equation, not just the ones that look like the ones we've been solving. Like if you have x squared equals 9, that's a pretty easy one to solve, right? You just take the square root of both sides and stuff like that. But if you see something like x squared plus 4x equals 9, okay? You can't really take the square root of both sides because there's nothing to take the, because you can't just square root that and get something nice and neat. So what you do is a process called completing the square, and then you square root both sides. So I'm just going to kind of take you. Don't you can write this down if you want, but we're going to practice doing the first step a bunch of times before we actually do the whole process. If I want to solve this, what I do is I rewrite this as x plus 2 quantities squared, and then I add something to both sides. Okay? If I FOIL this out, x plus 2 quantities squared, that comes out to be x squared plus 4x plus what? X squared plus 4x plus what? 4, right? If I FOIL this out, that's what I get. Okay? So basically what I did is when I rewrote this as this, I really added 4 to it. Okay? So in order to keep my equations balanced, I need to add 4 to this side of the equation. You understand? We'll get some practice with this. So when I rewrote this as this, I actually added 4 to the left side of the equation because it's not x squared plus 4x. This is x squared plus 4x plus 4. And since I added 4 to this side, I need to add 4 to that side. What's x squared plus, what's 9 plus 4? 13. So now, over here, this is equivalent to saying x plus 2 squared, which I just did, is equal to 13. Now what do? Now I do what I did before, okay? I square root both sides. So I take the square root of that side, square root of that side, I put a plus or minus there, and I get x plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 13. X equals, I'm going to take 2 away, negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 13. That whole process is called completing the square. If there's a coefficient in front of the x squared, then we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay? Yes, sir.
Where did you get the 4 from?
Okay, so see how this is almost the same as this,
Yeah.
except there's a 4 over here. I rewrote this as this because I know that if I FOIL it, right, if I take x plus 2 times x plus 2, right, I multiply those together, I get x squared. This times this and this times this gives me my 4x, right? And this times this gives me a plus 4, right? So when I rewrote this as this, I'm actually adding 4 more to my left side of the equation, right? So in order to keep my equation balanced, I need to add 4 to the right side of the equation as well, okay? So right now, all we're going to do some practice. We're going to do some practice completing the squares. So, or rewriting these. So for instance, if I see, if I see x squared plus 6x plus something equals x plus something squared. Who could tell me what goes in those 2 blanks? What goes in those 2 blanks? 6. Not 6. You just take half of the 6 and you put it here. Okay? What's half of 6? 3. Okay? Because x plus 3 times x plus 3 is going to give me x squared plus 6x plus what? 9. Okay? That's what goes there. You understand what I just did? Okay? I'm just rewriting x squared plus 6x as x plus 3 squared, but when I do that, I've added 9, so I rewrite it over here, okay? We'll do a more trickier one, which you're not going to like, but because it's got fractions. What if I did this? X squared plus 3 halves x plus blank equals x plus something squared. Take half of this. What's half of 3 halves? That's kind of tricky. Who knows what half of 3 halves is? 3/4, right? That's what goes there. So 3/4 goes in the, whoops, I forgot the square, right? 3/4 goes over here, and 3/4 squared goes over there. What's 3/4 squared? No, you have to square the top and square the bottom. What's 3 squared? 9 and 16, right? Because it's this squared over this squared. All right? So I'm going to give you a little sheet of paper, and you guys are going to practice this process. So most of you did pretty well. Hold on to that Sage and Scribe thing, because we're going to come back to that backside after I take you through a few examples and you do a few practice problems. Okay? So say they were to, we wanted to solve, okay? I'm going to write down the steps in a minute, okay? Solve by completing the square. You probably want to write this in your notes, or at least pay careful completing the square. Okay? Say you had something like this: x squared plus 6x minus 2 equals 0. When you're completing the square, your first step, I'm going to write down the steps as I go over here. First step, step number 1, is to get the, let me look at the, what do we call that, okay? Get the constant term on the right, okay? The constant term is the term that doesn't have an x in it, okay? So the first thing you want to do, Will, please put your phone away, okay? The constant term is this -2. So first thing I want to do is bring the 2 over to the right side, okay? So that gives me x squared plus 6x equals 2, okay? Second step, which we're not dealing with yet, okay? If x squared has a coefficient, remember coefficient's the number in front, coefficient greater than 1, okay? Divide everything by that coefficient, okay? By that number. I'm going to explain to you when we get to an example that deals with that, how to do that, okay? So if this were a number like 4 over here, I would have to divide everything by 4. Yes, Jessica?
What is the coefficient that's less than 1?
Well, you got to be so technical. If x squared, whose absolute value is greater than 1. There you go. All right? You understand what I mean? So if it's -5 or -6. Okay, you happy now?
Well, what about a fraction?
Oh, sorry. Other than, never mind. You're right. Has a coefficient other than 1. Okay? Yeah. Other than 1. Other than 1. Okay? Divide everything. No, you're good. That's good. Keep me straight. If a is not equal to 1, then factor it. Okay? So step 3 is to complete the square. Okay? Complete the square. Okay? Complete the square. So the process of completing the square. So that's what we're going to do here. So remember that last problem? If I were to, I'm going to complete the square on this part. And what that looks like is I take half of this number. What is half of this number? 3. Okay? X plus 3 squared equals 2 plus something. What have I added when I completed the square? What have I added to the left side when I just did the completing the square part? Not. That's why we did that little practice thing, okay? Because no one ever knows what to add over here. All you do is you take half of this, the second term, and you square it, and that's what you add to the other side. And you rewrite this as this, okay? So now you rewrite it as x plus 3 quantity squared equals 11. Now what? Square root both sides. Square roots, okay? Both sides. So this is the hardest part, really, for most people, is just getting from here to here, okay? But all you have to remember is this number here is half of the 6. So it's x plus 3 quantity squared. Whatever I squared here, I need to put over on the right side. Okay? Now I square root both sides. I get x plus 3 equals what? Plus or minus the square root of 11. Okay? And then I solve. Solve and simplify, meaning get x by itself. Okay? So what would I do to get x by itself? Minus 3 from both sides. Okay? So then I take away 3. I take away 3. I want to keep the 3 in front, and I write it as x equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 11, which, I mean, it really means x equals negative 3 plus the square root of 11, or x equals negative 3 minus the square root of 11. That's what completing the square looks like. Okay? So, I'm not going to give you a U-try quite yet. Okay? Well, maybe we will. Yeah, we could do some whiteboard, but not going, okay? Here's a U-try. Give that one a shot. What will be my first step? What do I do? What's my first step? Add 7 to both sides, right? So what you do is you add 7, most of you got that. So you get x squared plus 6x equals 7. I saw you took half of this, x plus 3 squared. You added that 3 squared to both sides, you got 9. You had x plus 3 squared equals 16. You took the square root of both sides. Some of you forgot a plus or minus, okay? If you can take that square root outside of the box, take the square root outside of the box, okay? X plus 3 equals plus or minus 4, okay? So you got to be careful here. There's 2 equations, because then I saw a bunch of you got to this point, well, you got plus or minus 1. So you have x plus 3 equals positive 4, or x plus 3 equals negative 4, and then you solve those 2 equations. Right? You subtract 3 from this, subtract 3 from this, subtract 3 from this, and you get x equals 1, or x equals negative 7. Okay? Most of you got that, right? That's tough. I mean, my pre-calculus students still can't do that. And they're like an advanced pre-calc because they never learned it from an expert teacher like myself. Okay, no, just kidding. No, but Mrs. Cheryl kind of set this up so that we do the first part first and then we do the steps. And she's really good at, I think she's got her act together. All right. Because I always just go really fast through, oh, this is how you do it, and then no one gets it. So, I think it's pretty good. Okay. If they say, just so you know, okay, you don't have to do this one, but just as another example, I'm going to give you another try. Complete the square to, I need a different color, to find the x-intercepts, to find the x-intercepts of y equals x squared plus 4x plus 1. When you're looking for x-intercepts, you know x-intercepts? It's where if this makes a parabola, which it does, these are called the x-intercepts. What's the y coordinate at the x-intercepts? What's the y value? What's the y value here and here? 0, right? Hello? The y value is 0. So all you do, if it says this, it's just the same thing kind of in disguise. It means take this equation, okay, and set it equal to 0, okay? Now you complete the square. What would I do first? How would I get rid of this? Subtract 1 equals negative 1. When I complete the square, I get x plus what squared? 2 squared equals negative 1 plus what? 4. Okay? X plus 2 squared equals 3. Square root both sides. Square root both sides. Plus or minus. X plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 3. Solving both pieces, I get x equals negative 2 plus root of 3, or x equals negative 2 minus root of 3. If I graph this parabola, that would be one intercept, that would be the other intercept. Okay? And that's where the x value of where it crosses. So it's really the same thing. Okay? I'm going to do one more, then you're going to do a sage and scribe, and then, then we're going to, then we'll do one more practice, and then, do I have one on there that has sorry. We're going to do one more, then we're going to do one more practice, and then you're going to get a worksheet. Okay, so if you have a coefficient other than 1, okay, this is where people run into trouble. You're going to 3x squared minus 5x minus 2 equals 0. Say I were to see one like this, okay, and they say solve, hey you guys, solve by completing the square. Completing the square. First thing I do is I get that 2 on the other side, right? That's what you would do? Tell me you would do that. 3x squared minus 5x equals 2. What does that second step say on those notes that I gave you? What do I do, Adam?
You divide by the coefficient.
Divide everything by the coefficient of x squared. So I'm going to divide everything by 3. By 3. By 3. Everything. Okay? This is really important. And because then what I get is this. X squared, because that 3 goes away, minus 5 over 3x equals 2/3. I know you hate fractions, but you can use a fraction calculator if you're really confused with the fractions. Okay? So now now I rewrite this as this, and now I complete the square. X minus something squared equals 2/3 plus something. Okay? What goes here? What's half of 5/3? Adam?
Isn't it 5/6?
It's 5/6. Okay? All you do is you you multiply by 1/2, okay? So this is 5/6, yes? What's 5/6 squared? What's 5 over 6 squared? Square the top, square the bottom.
25, 30.
25 over 36, okay? I know this gets ugly, but that's what happens when you have fractions, okay? You have x minus 5/6 squared, okay, equals, you have to find a common denominator. What's the common denominator between 3 and 36? 36, right? So how many 36ths is this? Right? 24 36. You multiply the top and the bottom by 12. So you get 24 36ths plus 25 36. So I'm never going to be able to do this. Those TI-80 30x's do simplify fractions for you. You get x minus 5/6 squared equals 49. Oh, look, it's nice. 49 over 36. Square root both sides, okay? Square root this side. I get plus or minus the square root of 49 36. So that gives me x minus 5/6. What's the square root of 49? 7. What's the square root of 36? 6. You guys still with me? Lots of steps. Now what? Almost there. How do I get rid of this 5/6? Add it to both sides. So you have x equals 5/6 plus 7/6, right? Because I had that 5/6. Or x equals 5/6 minus 7/6. What's 5/6 plus 7/6? 12/6. How many? What's 12/6? 2. There's one of your final answers. What's 5/6 minus 7/6? Negative 2/6, which can be reduced to negative 1/3. There's your other answer, okay? That's a lot of steps. So the only difference between this one and the previous problem is that first, once I get this 2 on the other side, I divide everything by the coefficient. Then I just go through the completing the square, but sometimes there's ugly fractions, okay? So, you can do it with the person next to you, okay? I'm going to give you one that has a coefficient other than 1. Okay, so we're going to do a you try. You try. Last you try. 9x squared plus 18x plus 8 equals 0. You can talk it through with the person next to you if you don't know what to do, okay? But see what you could come up with. I haven't done this, right, but we're going to kind of go through. First step, most of you got, is to subtract 8 from both sides, right? Most of you did that? Okay? 9x squared plus 18x equals negative 8. Who could tell me what the next step was? Divide everything by 9, okay? So I'm going to divide that by 9, divide that by 9, divide that by 9, okay? So I get x squared plus 2x equals negative 8/9. Now I complete the square. How do you complete the square, Jessica?
You do x plus 1 squared.
X plus 1 squared
And you add 1 to the other.
negative 8/9. Since I rewrote this as this, I've added 1 squared to that side, which is 1, right? I've added 1 squared, which is 1. Now I'm going to simplify this down a little bit because it makes my life easier. X plus 1 squared. Negative 8/9 plus 1 is how many ninths? 1/9. Okay? Now I square root both sides. Okay? So you get plus or minus the square root of 1/9. So you get x plus 1 equals plus or minus, what is the square root of 1/9? Square root of the top, square root of the bottom? 1/3, right? 1/3. Now I just subtract 1 from both sides, so I get x equals -1 plus or minus 1/3, okay? Which is x -1 plus 1/3 is 2/3, or -1 minus 1/3 is -4/3. Not that horrible. Is it that horrible? If you don't like fractions, it's kind of horrible, but you could use a calculator to help you with the fractions. But you got it, right? You people got it. Okay, on the back of that first Sage and Scribe thing that you had, there's one problem for you guys to talk to. What I want you to do when you're doing the Sage and Scribe is you switch, there's lots of steps. So one person does the first step, switch papers, the next person does the next step, and talks it through. Okay, you understand? Okay, so it's just one problem, but try that one. So the Sage and Scribe looks like, where is it? What is that problem? 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. 2x squared minus 5x minus 3 equals 0. Okay? Go ahead and do it. And here, okay, I have I got a good practice worksheet for you. It has a riddle and everything. The nice thing about this, it doesn't have any coefficients other than 1, okay? On your homework in the Math Excel, there's like 2 or 3 with other coefficients, okay? So you guys can put your whiteboards away. I would like you to try to finish this worksheet in class. 1, 2, 3. Ow! If you want to do you must show work. You can't just write down the answers.
You're right. Can we turn this in? Yeah. Mr. Leader,
Yes.
do we turn in this Sage and Scribe thingy?
Yeah, I'll collect the Sage and Scribe thing. Make sure both of your names are on that Sage and Scribe thing so I can give you credit for it. Okay? And everyone should have this worksheet. I want you to get this done in class. Okay? So,